As for that Secretary of State post, former CIA Director General David Petraeus and former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani are possible picks, along with Mitt Romney, a longtime Trump foe. Trump has not given many hints about his deliberations, but one of his key advisors, Kellyanne Conway, has been publicly blasting Romney as a pick, going on TV to warn Trump of a backlash if he chooses Romney. Conway was Trump's campaign manager and has been part of the internal discussions over cabinet picks. So how does Trump feel about an advisor questioning his picks? Just fine, according to the New York Times, which reports that Trump encouraged Conway to go public with her own thoughts on Romney. Leslie Sanchez is a CBSN political contributor and Republican strategist. She is in Houston tonight for us. Leslie, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Sure, absolutely.
Conway tweets, goes on TV to blast one of Trump's possible cabinet picks. According to the Times, as we were just talking about, President-elect Trump appreciates that. Is that actually part of advising Trump?
You know, it's hard to say what the inner workings of that are, but let's look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture, Kellyanne Conway is an extraordinary talent and strategic advisor, with the sense that she's been a very good counterbalance to the campaign, to giving it some grounding, to giving it some prowess in terms of getting things done message-wise. And the other aspect that we have to think about is somebody has to deliver the bad news. Somebody had, I don't know if you'd call this a trial balloon as much as a rocket launcher in terms of getting that message out there, that people were extremely frustrated at the idea of Mitt Romney being Secretary of State, certain Trump loyalists. It's really hard to believe, though. You would have to suspend your disbelief to think that she did this without Trump knowing it.
Right.
That's why I'm saying strategically it may be one of these efforts where somebody has to be the heavy, somebody delivers the harsh news. And then ultimately, though, many of us believe that the decision does come down to Donald Trump, of course, and he's going to decide how much fray and political capital he wants to use for his choice.
So I want to ask you, Thursday we have this thank you tour that Trump's going to be putting on. What do you make of it? And it's kind of interesting, if you look at it, Leslie, that we haven't really seen a lot of Trump in public since he won the election.
That's a really big indicator of why you're seeing the thank you tour. You know, in many ways, you could call them thank you tours, listening tours, whatever you may be. There's a lot more flexibility and movement that President-elect Trump can take right now than when after the inauguration. It becomes extremely difficult, and these types of big rallies become a very big headache. But right now is a really good time, and more importantly, it's very strategic to do this. It allows folks to be energized, engaged, as he's going to be moving a very aggressive agenda come January. So you're seeing the picks move for cabinet secretary positions relatively quickly. You're seeing now getting the political public support that he's going to need moving forward. It's a lot of good graces, and he's going to need that come the first and second quarter of next year.
I want to ask you a similar question that I asked Major Garrett just a few minutes ago in terms of these cabinet picks. You have Ms. Chow, you also have Mr. Price, you have Mnuchin now. These are all people who, you know, have had ties and have worked in government for a very long time, or have ties to Goldman Sachs in Mnuchin's case and that type of thing. Ms. Chow she's going to be Transportation Secretary. She served in George W. Bush's cabinet as Labor Secretary. We're going back, you know, almost a decade now. How is this Drain the Swamp pledge working out, in your opinion?
I think they're two different things. I don't think you can look at Elaine Chao as somebody who's been on the political front lines every day for the last 8 years. She is somebody who comes with extraordinary federal experience. There's two things. The hurdle, right, is can they pass Senate confirmation? And the second part is, do they have the expertise to run a federal agency? That it's not just a luminary position, but somebody who can go in there and understands federal budgeting, contracting, messaging, working with different federal agencies and departments, and actually moving a president's agenda. Those are extraordinarily difficult things. And also it's managing and having a respectful relationship with the career staff that are in these big agencies and moving that forward. So there is a balance that needs to be be had for this to be successful. I think any president that moves forward with somebody who has no federal experience, there are such tremendous learning curves and hurdles that it really can slow down moving the president's agenda forward. So I think one thing to look for, you're going to see that balance. Somebody who is a really strong pick, meaning they have good federal experience, they can pass Senate confirmation, and then maybe somebody who doesn't have that, but they're number two, that deputy secretary is going to have those qualifications you and I are talking about. You can call it draining the swamp, you can call it different. I think draining the swamp for many people means the paid lobbyist, the special interest groups, those kind of groups who have really been, inputting a lot of their influence for their particular corporations or their banks. That's more, I think when people hear that tone, that's what they're talking about.
Good point. Leslie Sanchez, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.